The stars looked different today. Commander Jake Morrison stood on the bridge of the Earth Alliance frigate Horizon, staring at the main screen with growing concern. Something was wrong in this sector of space. The sensors showed readings that made no sense. Ships were floating dead in the void, dozens of them, all belonging to the Vakreen Empire. 20 years ago, humans and Vakreen had fought a brutal war along the border systems. Thousands died on both sides. The peace treaty was still fresh, still fragile. Most people on Earth still remembered the Vakreen as enemies. Their crystalline bodies and silicon-based biology made them look like living gemstones. Beautiful, but alien. During the war, that beauty had hidden a fierce warrior culture that nearly pushed humanity back to Earth itself. Now those same warriors were dying. "Commander, we're receiving a distress signal," Lieutenant Kevin Hayes said from his station. The young officer looked confused. "It's coming from the Vakreen flagship. They're asking for help." Jake felt his stomach tighten. Asking the Vakreen for anything was hard enough. Having them ask humans for help was almost unthinkable. Whatever was happening out there had to be catastrophic. "What kind of help?" Jake asked. Kevin worked his console, filtering through the message. "Medical assistance. They're saying something about a plague. The translation is rough, but they're calling it the void sickness." Dr. Lisa Grant stepped forward from her position near the science station. She was the best xenobiologist in the Alliance, assigned to the Horizon specifically because of her expertise with non-human life forms. "A plague that affects the Vakreen? Their biology is completely different from ours. Silicon-based instead of carbon. What could possibly infect them?" Jake made a decision that he knew would cost him. Earth Command had strict orders about contact with Vakreen vessels. Stay away unless fired upon. Don't get involved in their internal affairs. But something in that distress call touched something deep inside him. Maybe it was the tone, desperate and afraid. The Vakreen never sounded afraid. "Set course for the flagship," Jake ordered. "Full speed." Kevin hesitated. "Sir, Command will have our heads for this. Let them. I'm not leaving anyone to die out here, not even former enemies." The Horizon moved through space, passing the dead ships. Each one was a tomb now. Jake could see them through the viewport. Massive vessels that once carried thousands of Vakreen warriors. Now they drifted silent and dark. The scale of the death was staggering. The celestial dawn appeared ahead, the flagship of the entire Vakreen Empire. It was 10 times the size of the Horizon, a monument to Vakreen engineering and power. But even this mighty ship looked wounded. Sections of its crystalline hull were dark. Other parts flickered with weak light like a dying heartbeat. "They're giving us permission to dock," Kevin reported. "Bay 7. Lisa gathered her medical equipment while Jake assembled a small team. He wanted to bring more people, but something told him to keep the group small. Just him, Lisa, and Kevin. If this was a trap, he didn't want to risk his entire crew. The docking process was smooth despite the damage to the Vakreen ship. When the airlock opened, Jake stepped through with his hand near his weapon. Old habits died hard, a Vakreen warrior waited for them. His name was Korath, and he had fought against humans in the war. Jake recognized him from intelligence briefings. But the proud warrior Jake remembered looked nothing like the being before him now. Korath's crystalline body was cracked and dim. Parts of him seemed to fade in and out of visibility, as if he was becoming transparent. "Commander Morrison," Korath said in heavily accented English. "You came. I did not think you would." "Your people asked for help," Jake replied simply. "Where's the Queen?" Korath led them through corridors that had once been magnificent. The Vakreen built their ships like works of art, with flowing lines and crystalline structures that caught and reflected light in amazing ways. Now those same corridors were filled with the sick and dying. Vakreen of all ages lay on the floor, their bodies losing coherence. Some were already gone. Their forms collapsed into piles of silicon dust. Lisa stopped to scan several of the victims. Her face grew pale as she read the results. "This isn't a normal disease," she whispered. "Their atomic bonds are breaking down. It's like something is unraveling them at the molecular level." They reached the throne room, a vast chamber at the heart of the ship. Queen Sareth waited there, sitting on a throne made of pure crystal. She was ancient by Vakreen standards, over 300 years old. Her body should have shone with the accumulated light of centuries. Instead, she looked like a candle burning its last moments. "Human," the Queen said, her voice like wind chimes in a storm. "You are brave to come here. Or foolish, perhaps both." Jake stepped forward, showing no fear. "Your Majesty, what happened here?" The Queen stood slowly, each movement clearly causing her pain. We were attacked. Not by weapons you would understand. Not by any enemy that exists in normal space. Tell me, human, do you know the legends of the architects? Lisa's eyes went wide. The architects? Those are just stories. Ancient myths about beings of pure energy that existed before the physical universe. Myths have truth at their core, Queen Sareth said. The architects are real. They have existed since before matter itself formed. And they want to destroy everything we know, everything we are. They see physical life as an infection, a mistake that must be corrected. Jake felt cold despite the warm air. Why are they attacking now? Why you? Because we resisted them once before long ago. Because our empire spans many systems and holds knowledge they want erased. They gave us this gift, this void sickness, as a mercy. They say it is painless, that we will simply dissolve back into the energy we came from. But it is still death, Commander. The death of my people, my culture, everything we have built over millennia. Kevin spoke up from behind Jake. What can we do? We're just humans. If these architects are as powerful as you say, what chance do we have? The Queen moved closer, her fading light reflecting in Jake's eyes. Everything, Lieutenant. You have everything. Do you know why I called specifically for humans? Because you are immune. Immune, Lisa asked. How is that possible? Your planet, Earth, exists in a unique position in space. Your magnetic field, your evolution, the specific quantum properties of your neural patterns. The architects cannot touch you. Their weapons pass through you like you don't exist. You are invisible to them. In all the galaxy, among all the races that exist, only humanity has this gift. Jake felt the weight of those words settle on his shoulders. You want us to fight them? No, the Queen said softly. I want you to survive them. My people are dying. Soon we will be gone. But the architects will not stop with us. They will move through the galaxy, erasing every civilization they find, except you. You can stand against them. You must. Lisa was already scanning the Queen with her equipment. Your Majesty, how long do you have? Days, perhaps hours. The void sickness has taken most of my people already. Soon I will join them. Jake made his decision in that moment. It wasn't about following orders or politics or old grudges from the war. It was about doing what was right. We'll help you, he said firmly. I don't know how yet, but we'll find a way. The Queen smiled, a strange expression on her alien face. You sound so certain, human. Where does such confidence come from? From being too stubborn to quit, Jake replied. It's kind of our thing. As if summoned by his words, the ship suddenly shuddered. Alarms began wailing throughout the celestial dawn. Kevin checked his portable scanner and his face went white. Commander, we have incoming. Multiple contacts, but they're not registering as ships. They're pure energy signatures. Massive ones, Queen Sareth closed her eyes. They are here. The architects have come to finish what they started. Now, Commander Morrison, you will see if your immunity is enough. You will see if one human can truly stand between my people and the forces that wish to unmake reality itself. Jake drew his weapon, knowing it was probably useless, but feeling better with it in his hand anyway. Lisa, get the Queen back to the horizon. Kevin, sound general quarters. Whatever's coming, we face it together. Through the crystalline walls of the ship, they could see them now, beings of pure light and energy, descending from the darkness between stars. The architects had arrived, and the battle for existence itself was about to begin. The architects moved through space like living storms. Jake watched them approach on every screen in the command center. They defied description, beings that existed partially outside normal reality. One moment they looked like spheres of pure light. The next moment they seemed to have impossible geometry, angles and shapes that hurt to look at directly. Dr. Lisa Grant worked frantically at her mobile laboratory, analyzing samples from infected Vakrine. She had set up equipment in a cargo bay of the horizon after they evacuated Queen Sareth and several dozen survivors from the Celestial Dawn. The Queen lay in Medical Bay 3, her condition worsening by the hour despite everything Lisa tried. This doesn't make sense, Lisa muttered, staring at her screens. The void sickness isn't biological. It's not a virus or bacteria. It's weaponized dark energy. Somehow they're using exotic particles to break down the quantum bonds that hold silicon-based matter together. Jake stood beside her, trying to understand the technical readouts. Can you cure it? Cure it? Jake, I can barely understand it. This is technology that makes our most advanced physics look like cave paintings. The architects have had billions of years to perfect this. Kevin's voice crackled over the intercom. Commander, you need to see this. The architects are communicating with us. Jake rushed to the bridge. The main view screen showed one of the architect entities hovering directly in front of the horizon. This close, Jake could see details that made his head spin. The being seemed to shift between states of matter and energy. Parts of it existed in 3 dimensions, parts in 4, maybe more. Looking at it too long made him dizzy. Then it spoke. Not with sound, but directly into their minds. Every person on the ship heard the words at the same moment, felt them like cold fingers touching their thoughts. Physical beings. You harbor the corrupted ones. Surrender them. Allow us to complete the cleansing. You will not be harmed. Your kind is outside our purpose. Jake gripped the armrest of his chair. Having something talk directly in his brain was deeply unsettling. This is Commander Jake Morrison of the Earth Alliance. The Vakreen are under our protection. You need to back off. The architect pulsed with light. Protection. An interesting concept. You seek to preserve that which should not exist. The physical universe is an error. A cosmic accident. We work to restore balance, to return all matter to its proper state of pure energy. Kevin worked his tactical console, trying to get a weapons lock on the entity. Nothing worked. The architect didn't even register as a solid target. It was like trying to shoot a ghost. An error, Jake said, playing for time. Life is an error? Consciousness, culture, art, everything we've built? Yes, all of it. The universe was meant to be energy alone, perfect and eternal. When matter formed, when physical life emerged, it was chaos entering order. We have spent eons correcting this mistake. The Vakreen were simply next in sequence. After them, the Drexith. Then the Korvath. Each civilization erased, each corrupted world cleansed. Lisa's voice came over the intercom. Jake, I'm detecting energy surges throughout the system. They're not just talking. They're attacking other Vakreen ships. On the screen, Jake saw the horrible truth of her words. The dead ships they had passed earlier began to disintegrate completely. The architects were erasing them from existence, breaking them down into component atoms and then into energy. In minutes, ships that had taken years to build simply ceased to exist. Stop this, Jake demanded. These are people. They have as much right to exist as you do. Right. Another meaningless concept. There is only purpose. Our purpose is restoration. Your immunity to our methods is an anomaly we do not understand, but it changes nothing. Stand aside, physical being, or discover if your immunity has limits. Queen Sareth's voice crackled over the ship's intercom. She had managed to drag herself to a communications panel in the medical bay. Architect. I am Sareth, Queen of the Vakreen. I remember you from the ancient records. 5,000 years ago, you came to our world. You tried to erase us then. We survived. We will survive again. The architect's form pulsed with something that might have been surprise. The Vakreen. Yes, you were difficult. Your defensive technology adapted. You learned to partially shield yourselves. That is why we created the void sickness specifically for your biology. You cannot shield against a weapon that attacks your very molecular structure. But humans can, Sareth said, and Jake heard the strength returning to her voice. This was the queen who had ruled an empire, who had fought wars and won. Even dying, she was formidable. Humans are your blind spot, architect. In all your billions of years, have you ever encountered a species you could not touch? The entity seemed to consider this. No, never. The humans are unique. Their neural patterns exist in quantum states we cannot interact with. Their position in space-time provides natural shielding we do not comprehend. They are the first true anomaly we have encountered. Lisa burst onto the bridge, her face flushed with excitement. Jake, I figured it out. The reason we're immune isn't just our biology. It's our consciousness itself. Human thoughts, human awareness exists on quantum levels that don't interact with the architect's energy state. We're literally invisible to them on a fundamental level. So what does that mean for the Vakreen? Kevin asked. Lisa pulled up a holographic display. If we could somehow project human neural patterns, extend them like a shield, anything within that field might appear to have the same quantum signature as us. The architects wouldn't be able to affect them. Jake understood immediately. A human shield, literally. But there's a problem, Lisa said quietly. To project neural patterns on a scale large enough to protect the Vakreen ships, we would need to link human consciousness directly to the field generators. Whoever does it would be putting their mind, their very sense of self, at risk. The process could be fatal. The architect spoke again, its voice thundering through their thoughts. Enough delay. Surrender the Vakreen or face consequences. Your immunity protects your physical forms. It does not protect your ships, your technology, your civilization. We will erase everything you have built until you have no choice but to watch as we complete our purpose. To prove the point, the architect reached out with a tendril of energy. It touched a piece of debris floating nearby, a chunk of metal from a destroyed Vakreen ship. The metal didn't explode or burn. It simply stopped existing, converted instantly to radiation and exotic particles. That could be your world, the architect said. Your Earth, your colonies. Everything humanity has touched could be unmade. You cannot stop us. You can only witness. Jake felt rage building inside him. This thing, this ancient being, thought it could threaten humanity, thought it could dictate who lived and who died. 20 years ago, humans and Vakreen had been killing each other. Now Jake was ready to die to protect them. Maybe that made him crazy. Maybe it made him human, Lisa, Jake said calmly. Prep the field generators. I'm going to be your first test subject. Jake, you could die. Your consciousness could be scattered across quantum space. You might never come back. Then I guess you better make sure the process works, Jake said with a grim smile. Kevin, I need you to prepare the crew. Tell them I need volunteers. Tell them the truth about the risks. But also tell them what we're fighting for. Not just the Vakreen. Every physical life form in the galaxy. Queen Sareth's voice came over the intercom again. Commander Morrison, you would risk your life for my people? For the same Vakreen who killed your soldiers? Who nearly destroyed your colonies? That was 20 years ago, Jake said. This is now. And right now you need help. Simple as that. There is nothing simple about you, human, the Queen said, and Jake could hear the wonder in her voice. I fought against your kind. I sent warriors to kill you. I celebrated human deaths. And now you offer everything to save us. How Jake thought about it for a moment. Because that's what we do. We're not perfect. We fight, we argue, we make mistakes. But when it really matters, when someone needs help, we show up. That's the human way. The architect pulsed with light that felt like anger. Foolishness, sentiment. These are the weaknesses of physical life. You will fail. Maybe, Jake admitted. But we're going to try anyway. That's another human thing. We're too stubborn to quit. Kevin stood up from his station. Commander, I volunteer. For the neural link. Whatever you need. Others on the bridge raised their hands. The communications officer, the navigator, the tactical specialists. One by one, they volunteered to risk their lives, their very consciousness, to protect people who had been enemies just years before. Lisa looked at them all with tears in her eyes. You're all insane. You know that, right? Jake laughed, a sound that seemed out of place with the cosmic threat bearing down on them. Probably, but if being sane means standing by while others die, then I'll take insane every time. The architects began to gather, dozens of them now, surrounding the horizon and the few remaining Vakreen ships. They pulsed in unison, building energy for a massive attack. Jake could see it on the sensors, power readings that made their sun look dim by comparison. Lisa, how long until the shield is ready? Jake asked. Give me 30 minutes. You've got 20. Kevin, all power to shields. Everyone else, strap in. This is going to get rough. As the crew rushed to their stations, Jake took one last look at Earth's location on the star charts. His homeworld, the modifications to the horizons. Quantum field generators took exactly 19 minutes and 43 seconds. Dr. Lisa Grant worked, with a speed and precision that would have been impossible under normal circumstances. Fear and determination drove her hands as she reconfigured systems never meant to interface with human consciousness. Commander Jake Morrison sat in the specially prepared chair in engineering. Electrodes attached to his temples and neural interface ports connected directly to his spine. The sensation was uncomfortable, like having ants crawl under his skin. Around him, 50 other crew members sat in similar chairs. They had all volunteered despite knowing the risks. Lieutenant Kevin Hayes was among them, sitting directly to Jake's right. The young officer looked calm, but Jake could see his hands gripping the armrest tightly. Nobody knew exactly what would happen when they activated the system. Lisa's theories were solid, but they were still just theories. Neural pathways mapping correctly, Lisa announced, checking her monitors. Jake, I need you to focus. Think about who you are. Your name, your memories, everything that makes you yourself. That consciousness signature is what we're going to project. Jake closed his eyes and thought about his life. Growing up in Colorado, his mother's face. The day he joined the Alliance. His first command. The friends he had lost in the war. Every memory, every experience woven together to make him who he was. Good, Lisa said. Your pattern is stabilizing. Now when I activate this, you're going to feel your awareness expand. Don't fight it. Let it flow outward. The Vacrine ships are the target. Your consciousness needs to touch them, surround them, protect them. Easy for you to say, Jake muttered. You're not the one having your brain turned into a broadcast antenna. Queen Sareth's voice came through the intercom. She had insisted on watching from the medical bay despite her worsening condition. Commander Morrison? Before you do this, I want you to know something. I had a daughter named Velith. She died fighting your people in the border wars. For years, I hated humanity because of that loss. Now a human is willing to die to save my life, to save my people. The universe has a strange sense of poetry. Jake opened his eyes briefly. I'm sorry about your daughter, Your Majesty. But I promise you her death won't be meaningless. None of them will be. We're going to make sure this universe survives. All of us together. The ship shuddered as the architects launched their first attack. Energy beams that existed partially outside normal space struck the horizon's shields. The ship rocked violently. Alarms blared across every deck. Shields at 60% and falling, someone shouted from the bridge. Another hit like that and we're done. Lisa, now or never, Jake said firmly. Lisa's hands moved over the controls. Activating neural link in 3, 2, 1. The universe exploded into Jake's mind. Suddenly he was everywhere and nowhere. His consciousness expanded like a wave, rushing outward from his body at the speed of thought. He could feel the horizon around him, every circuit, every bulkhead, every crew member. But he was also beyond it, spreading through space itself. The Vacrine ships appeared in his awareness like islands in an ocean. He reached for them instinctively, wrapping his consciousness around their crystalline hulls. The sensation was overwhelming. He could feel the Vacrine inside, their fear, their pain, their desperate hope. Then the other volunteers joined him. Kevin's presence appeared next to his own, strong and steady. Then others, 50 points of human consciousness blending together, creating a network of awareness that spanned light years. It's working. Lisa's voice seemed to come from very far away. The quantum field is stabilizing. The architects can't penetrate it. The architects struck again, massive energy beams that should have vaporized the Vacrine ships. But the attacks passed through the human neural field like light through glass. The architects' weapons literally could not perceive their targets anymore. To their senses, everything within the field registered as human consciousness, untouchable and immune. Jake felt the architects' confusion ripple through space. These ancient beings had never encountered resistance like this. For billions of years, their power had been absolute. Now, for the first time, they were ineffective. But maintaining the shield was agony. Jake existed in a state between physical and energy forms. His body sat in that chair in engineering, kept alive by medical technology, but his mind, his consciousness spread across the cosmos. Every second felt like an eternity. He could feel the architects probing the barrier, looking for weaknesses, testing different frequencies and energy states. How long can we hold this? Kevin's thought voice echoed through the network. As long as we have to, Jake replied, though he had no idea if that was true. Hours passed, or maybe days. Time became meaningless in the quantum field. Jake and his crew existed in a strange liminal space, their thoughts intertwined. Their consciousness merged into something greater than any individual. Lisa worked tirelessly on the physical plane, monitoring their vital signs, adjusting the field parameters, keeping them alive. She pushed Vacrine medical technology to its limits, using their advanced healing techniques to keep the volunteers' bodies functioning while their minds existed elsewhere. Admiral Patricia Cole arrived with the Earth Alliance fleet on the third day. 60 ships dropped out of quantum drive, weapons charged and ready. Cole was a veteran of the border wars, a tough commander who had never backed down from a fight. She took one look at the situation and immediately understood what Jake had done. "Get me Morrison," she ordered. On the horizon, Lisa shook her head. "I can't, Admiral. He's maintaining the shield. If I pull him out even for a moment, the architects will break through." Cole stared at the view screen, at the architects surrounding the protected ships like sharks circling prey. "How long can he hold it?" "I don't know." The human mind wasn't designed for this. Already I'm seeing neural stress patterns that should be impossible. Some of the volunteers are starting to fade. As if summoned by her words, an alarm sounded. One of the crew members, a young engineer named Danny Foster, began to seize in his chair. His consciousness was fragmenting, unable to maintain coherence across quantum space. "Pull him out," Cole ordered. "I can't. If I remove one person, it could destabilize the entire network." They watched helplessly as Danny's life signs flatlined. His consciousness didn't return to his body. Instead, it dissolved into the quantum field, becoming part of the barrier itself. His sacrifice sealed a breach that the architects had been exploiting, but the cost was terrible. Jake felt Danny die, felt his friend's consciousness scatter like leaves in a storm. The pain was beyond anything physical. It was the death of thought itself, of everything that made a person unique. "No." Jake's thought voice carried grief and rage. "Danny, no." Kevin's presence wrapped around Jake's, offering support. "He's still here, Commander. His pattern is woven into the shield. He's protecting us still." More architects arrived. Dozens became hundreds. They filled the space around the human fleet, their combined presence warping reality itself. Stars flickered and dimmed. The fabric of space-time rippled like water. The architects spoke as one, their voice shaking the minds of everyone who heard it. "This cannot continue. You physical beings delay the inevitable. Surrender the Vakreen. Surrender them now or watch your kind suffer." Admiral Cole responded on all channels. "This is Admiral Patricia Cole of the Earth Alliance. The Vakreen are under our protection. You want them? You go through us." The 60 ships of the Alliance fleet moved into defensive formation around the Vakreen vessels, human weapons charged, though everyone knew they would be useless against energy beings. But the gesture mattered. Humanity was drawing a line in space itself. Queen Sareth watched from the medical bay, tears streaming down her crystalline face. "Why?" she whispered. "Why do they sacrifice so much for us?" Lisa stood beside her, exhausted but determined. "Because that's what humans do. We don't abandon people. We don't calculate odds and walk away when things get hard. We stand and fight even when it's hopeless." The Queen looked at her with ancient eyes. "Your species is very young. In cosmic terms, you have existed for mere moments. Yet you possess wisdom that took my people millennia to learn. We fought each other once. Now you die for us. I do not understand." "Neither do we sometimes," Lisa admitted. "But understanding isn't necessary. Action is." On the bridge of Cole's flagship, sensors detected a new development. The architects were adapting. They were learning to partially perceive the human neural patterns. The shield was still holding, but it was weakening. "Lisa, they're finding frequencies we can't block," Cole reported. "How long until they break through?" Lisa checked her readouts. The truth was written in the declining neural stability of every volunteer. "Hours, maybe. The crew is exhausted. Their consciousness can't maintain this level of expansion much longer. We need another solution." "What kind of solution?" "I don't know yet, but I'm working on it." Inside the quantum field, Jake felt the architects' progress. They were persistent, relentless. Every failed attack taught them something new. They adapted and evolved their methods with terrifying speed. "We can't hold much longer," one of the volunteers, a woman named Rachel Turner. The architect touched Jake's consciousness, and the universe turned inside out. For the first time in billions of years, an architect experienced physical memory. Not as data or abstract concept, but as lived experience. It felt Jake's childhood, the smell of pine trees in Colorado mountains, the taste of his mother's cooking, the fear of his first day at the academy, the pride of his first command, the grief when friends died in the border wars. But more than individual memories, the architect felt what it meant to be human. The constant struggle between what you want and what is right, the ability to change your mind, to grow, to become better than you were, the choice to help someone even when they were once your enemy. The architect recoiled, overwhelmed. Its thought voice echoed across quantum space, reaching every other architect in the system. "It is chaos. Pure chaos. How can physical consciousness exist in such disorder?" Jake felt the being's confusion and responded with his own thoughts. "It's not disorder. It's possibility. Every choice we make shapes who we become. We're not perfect. We fail constantly, but we keep trying. That's the point. That's what makes us alive." Another architect moved closer, drawn by curiosity. This one seemed older. its energy signature dense with accumulated time. It spoke directly to Jake's mind. You defend the Vacrine. Yet we have observed your history. 20 solar cycles ago you killed each other. Your species and theirs engaged in brutal warfare. Why do you now sacrifice yourself for them? Because we learned, Jake said simply. We grew, we changed. That's what physical life does. We're not locked into one state of being. We can become better. Kevin's presence joined the conversation, adding his own memories to the transmission. The young lieutenant showed the architects his father, who had died fighting the Vacrine, showed them his anger and hatred, then showed them meeting Vacrine survivors, seeing their grief, realizing they suffered just as humans did. The moment his hatred transformed into something else, not quite forgiveness but understanding. Physical consciousness learns, Kevin thought spoke. We make mistakes and we fix them. We hurt each other and then we heal. You see chaos. We see growth. On the horizon, Dr. Lisa Grant watched the neural patterns of every volunteer spike to dangerous levels. The direct contact with the architects was pushing human consciousness to its absolute limits. Several crew members were seizing in their chairs. Their bodies couldn't handle the strain. I have to pull them out, Lisa said to Admiral Cole. They're dying. How many have we lost? Cole asked quietly. 7 so far. Danny Foster was the first. Then Sarah Klein, Marcus Webb, Jennifer Cole. Lisa's voice broke. They're all just dissolving, Admiral. Their consciousness is fragmenting across quantum space. Cole clenched her fists. And if you pull them out? What happens to the shield? It collapses. The architects break through. Everyone dies. Then they keep going, Cole said, though the words clearly caused her pain. This is what they volunteered for. Honor their choice. Lisa wanted to argue, to rage against the unfairness of it all. But she knew Cole was right. Every person in those chairs had understood the risks. They had chosen this path knowing they might not return. Inside the quantum field, Jake felt each death like a piece of himself being torn away. Sarah had served with him for 5 years. Marcus was getting married next month. Jennifer was Cole's niece, young and brilliant. Each loss diminished the shield, but also somehow strengthened it. Their consciousness didn't disappear completely. It wove itself into the barrier, becoming a permanent part of the defense. They're becoming part of us, Rachel Turner observed through the network. Her own consciousness was fading, but she held on with desperate strength. We're not separate anymore. We're something new, human and non-human, physical and quantum. We're bridging the gap. The architects sensed this transformation and responded with increased aggression. If physical consciousness could adapt like this, could merge and transform, then it was more dangerous than they had believed. The chaos was spreading, infecting even the way humans interacted with reality itself. Hundreds of architects converged on the shield, attacking with coordinated precision. They had studied the human neural patterns now. They understood the frequencies, the quantum states, the specific configurations that made up human consciousness. They adapted their weapons to specifically target these patterns. The shield buckled under the assault. Jake felt it like hammer blows to his soul. Each attack tested a different frequency, a different approach. The architects were learning faster than humanity could adapt. We can't hold this, Kevin gasped through the network. There are too many of them. Yes, we can, Jake insisted, though he could feel his own consciousness starting to slip. We have to. If we fall, they'll erase the Vacrine. Then they'll move to the next species. And the next, until nothing physical remains in the universe. Queen Sareth's voice joined the network, weak but determined. The dying queen had connected herself to the quantum field despite Lisa's protests. Commander Morrison, you have done enough. You have proven humanity's worth. Let us go. Save your people. Not happening, Your Majesty, Jake replied. We started this together. We finish it together. The queen felt tears form in her crystalline eyes. In all my centuries, I have never met beings like humans. You are stubborn and irrational and wonderful. If my people survive this, we will never forget what you sacrificed for us. We're not done sacrificing yet, Jake said grimly. Another wave of attacks hit the shield. 3 more volunteers died, their consciousness dissolving into the quantum foam. The barrier held, but barely. Jake could feel it fraying at the edges, weakening with each loss. Lisa made a decision that went against every instinct she had as a doctor and scientist. She sat down in one of the empty chairs and began connecting the neural interface to herself. Lisa, what are you doing? Admiral Cole demanded. Joining them, Lisa said calmly. They need more power, more consciousness to stabilize the field. I've been studying the patterns. I know how to help. You're the only one who understands the technology. If you go into that field, there's nobody to pull you out if something goes wrong. Lisa smiled sadly. Then I guess nothing better go wrong. She activated the neural link before Cole could stop her. Lisa's consciousness exploded into the quantum field, and suddenly she was everywhere. She felt Jake's presence immediately, felt Kevin's determination, felt the fading strength of every volunteer. But she also felt something else. The structure of the field itself. The mathematical patterns underlying reality. Her scientific mind, trained to see patterns and relationships, perceived the quantum field in ways the others couldn't. She began to adjust frequencies to optimize the shield's configuration. The barrier stabilized, growing stronger. Lisa, Jake's thought voice carried relief and anger in equal measure. You shouldn't have done this. Someone had to, she replied. Besides, you were doing all the math wrong. Let the scientist handle the science. Her presence in the network changed everything. With Lisa optimizing the field equations in real time, the shield became more efficient. They could maintain the same level of protection with less strain on each individual consciousness, but the architects adapted again. They always adapted. One of them, the ancient one that had first spoken to Jake, moved to the forefront. Its energy signature was different from the others, more coherent, more whole. Physical beings. Your resistance is impressive but futile. We have existed since before time itself. We have seen civilizations rise and fall across billions of years. You cannot defeat eternity. Jake felt anger surge through him. Maybe not. But we can damn well make eternity work for its victory. Every second we hold you here is another second the rest of the galaxy has to prepare. Every moment you waste on us is a moment you're not erasing someone else. Preparation is meaningless. Eventually we will adapt. We will overcome your unique quantum signature, and then we will resume our purpose. Your purpose? Kevin's thought voice carried fury. Your purpose is genocide. You're killing entire species because you can't accept that the universe changed. That's not purpose. That's just fear. The ancient architect pulsed with light that felt like anger. Fear? We are beyond such physical emotions, are you? Lisa joined the conversation, her scientific mind analyzing the architect's energy patterns. Because your behavior suggests otherwise. You're trying to reverse billions of years of universal evolution. That's not the action of beings confident in their purpose. That's the action of beings afraid of irrelevance. Her words struck something deep. The ancient architect's form flickered, destabilizing for just a moment. Other architects around it pulsed in what might have been confusion or concern. You seek to psychologically manipulate us, the ancient one said. Physical consciousness tactics. They do not apply to energy beings, don't they? Lisa pressed. You were whole once. One unified consciousness. Then the physical universe formed and you fragmented. You've spent eons trying to put the pieces back together, by eliminating the thing you believe caused the fracture. But what if you're wrong? What if the fracture was inevitable? What if trying to eliminate physical matter won't restore what you lost? The architect recoiled as if struck. Around it, other architects began to pulse in erratic patterns. Lisa's words had hit on something fundamental. Something they had perhaps hidden even from themselves. Queen Sareth Rachel Turner had always been curious about stars. As a child in Montana, she would spend hours staring at the night sky, wondering what existed beyond Earth's atmosphere. She became an astrophysicist, then joined the Alliance to explore those distant lights. Even now, as her consciousness dissolved into quantum space, that curiosity remained. It was the last thing that was truly her. When she touched the architect, that curiosity transmitted like an electric current. The ancient energy being felt something it had not experienced in billions of years. Wonder. Not at its own existence or purpose, but at something other than itself. Rachel's fading mind showed the architect what it felt like to discover something new. To learn to grow. The architect responded instinctively, reaching back, trying to understand this strange physical consciousness that was becoming something neither physical nor pure energy. In that touch, Rachel's pattern found an anchor. Instead of dissolving completely, she stabilized, existing in a state between matter and energy. Held together by the architect's curiosity and her own determination. Commander Jake Morrison felt the change ripple through the quantum field. Lisa, are you seeing this? Dr. Lisa Grant's consciousness was focused on the readings, analyzing the impossible data. Rachel's neural pattern is stabilizing inside the architect's energy matrix. They're merging somehow, not consuming but integrating. The architect is providing structure while Rachel's consciousness provides complexity. Queen Sareth watched from her connection to the network, amazement coloring her thoughts. They are becoming one being. Physical consciousness within energy form. This should not be possible. Possible or not, it's happening, Kevin Hayes observed. And look at the other architects. They've stopped attacking completely. They're just watching. The ancient architect, the one who had touched Rachel, spoke for the first time with something other than absolute certainty. Its voice carried confusion and something that might have been hope. This feeling, this experience, it is not unity as we understood it, but neither is it the chaos we feared. It is something between, something new. Rachel's thought voice emerged, changed but recognizable. It's beautiful. I can see everything now, the way energy flows through space-time, the quantum patterns underlying reality, but I also remember being human, remember curiosity and wonder and the joy of discovery. I'm both things at once. Jake felt his own consciousness surge with emotion. They had done it. Not through weapons or force, but through connection. Through showing the architects that integration was possible, that physical and energy consciousness could coexist. But Queen Sareth was dying. Jake could feel her life force fading even as this miracle unfolded. The void sickness had progressed too far. Her crystalline body was fracturing, her molecular bonds breaking down despite everything Lisa had tried. Your Majesty, Jake called through the network, stay with us. We're so close to solving this. I have lived 3 centuries, Commander, the Queen replied, her thoughts growing distant. I have seen wonders and horrors. I have made terrible mistakes and a few good choices. But this moment, seeing humans and architects learning to coexist, seeing my people saved by former enemies, this is enough. This is a good ending. It doesn't have to be an ending, Lisa said suddenly. Her scientific mind was racing through possibilities. Rachel integrated with an architect. She's silicon-based like the Vakreen, but her consciousness is human. What if we could do the same for the Queen? What if an architect could provide the structure her body is losing? The ancient architect pulsed with consideration. It would be unprecedented. We have never deliberately merged with physical consciousness before. We do not know if it would work, but you would try, Jake asked. The architect was silent for a long moment. Jake could feel it consulting with the others, their collective consciousness debating across quantum space. Finally, it spoke. The one who was Rachel has shown us that coexistence is possible, perhaps even desirable. If the Vakreen Queen agrees, we will attempt integration. Not as destruction, but as preservation. Her consciousness would continue within our energy matrix. Queen Sareth's thought voice carried surprise. You would save me? After I fought against your purpose? After I called you monsters and rallied my people to resist? You showed us life, the architect replied simply. Through the human network, you transmitted your experiences, your culture, your history. We felt what it meant to be physical consciousness. You gave us something we thought lost forever, perspective outside ourselves. It seems appropriate to return the gift. The Queen hesitated, then made her decision. I accept, but not just for myself. My people still carry the void sickness. Can this integration cure them? The ancient architect moved closer to the celestial dawn. Other architects followed, their energy forms approaching the Vakreen ships cautiously. If integration succeeds with you, we will teach others of our kind the technique. The void sickness was our weapon, designed to break down silicon-based molecular bonds. We can reverse it. We can restore what we destroyed. Jake felt tears streaming down his physical face, back in his body on the horizon. They had won. Not through violence, but through understanding. Humanity had stood between the architects and the Vakreen, refusing to move, refusing to surrender. And in that stubborn defiance, they had forced both sides to see each other as more than enemies. The ancient architect began the integration with Queen Sareth. Jake watched through the quantum network as the being's energy form carefully wrapped around the Queen's fracturing crystalline body. Instead of breaking her down, it provided structure. The architect's energy replaced the failing molecular bonds, holding Sareth's physical form together while her consciousness expanded into the energy matrix. The Queen gasped as her awareness suddenly encompassed both physical and quantum states. I can feel everything, every particle, every wave function, but I also feel my memories, my identity. I am still Sarith, still Vakreen, but also something more. Other architects moved toward the sick Vakreen throughout the fleet, not to destroy but to heal. They carefully reversed the void sickness, using their intimate knowledge of the weapon to undo its effects. Throughout the ships, dying Vakreen began to recover. The dissolution stopped. Molecular bonds restabilized. Admiral Patricia Cole watched from her flagship, hardly believing what she was seeing. All ships stand down. I repeat, stand down. The architects are no longer hostile. On the horizon, Lisa began the careful process of extracting the volunteers from the quantum field. It was delicate work. Each consciousness had been stretched across space-time for days. Bringing them back required precision and patience. Jake was the last to return. As his awareness contracted back into his physical body, he felt the loss acutely. For days he had existed as something vast and connected. Now he was just Jake Morrison again, one human in one body. It felt limiting after the quantum experience. He opened his eyes to find Lisa leaning over him, exhaustion written on her face. "Welcome back, Commander. How many?" Jake asked, his voice hoarse. 38 didn't make it. Their consciousness dissolved too far to recover. But 14 others, including Rachel, exist in new forms now, integrated with architects. Neither human nor energy being, but both. Jake sat up slowly, his body protesting every movement. And the Vakreen? Saved all of them. The architects are reversing the void sickness across the entire fleet. Queen Sarith is stable in her new integrated form. Lisa smiled tiredly. "You did it, Jake. You actually did it." Kevin Hayes appeared in the medical bay doorway. The lieutenant looked as exhausted as Jake felt, but he was grinning. "Commander, you need to see this." The architects are dispersing throughout the system. Some are integrating with asteroids and uninhabited moons. They're learning to exist as part of the physical universe instead of apart from it. Jake stood shakily and made his way to the observation deck. Through the windows, he could see the architects spread throughout space. Their energy forms touched matter carefully, experimentally. Some succeeded in integration, their consciousness settling into physical structures while maintaining their energy nature. Others struggled and withdrew, perhaps needing more time to adapt. Not all the architects stayed. About a third of them departed, unwilling or unable to accept this new paradigm. They retreated into deep space, perhaps to try again in another age, perhaps simply to exist alone with their ancient purpose. Jake watched them go without judgment. Change was hard for everyone, even beings billions of years old. Queen Sarith appeared beside him, her form now a beautiful blend of crystalline matter and energy light. She looked more solid than before, but light flowed through her structure in patterns that defied normal physics. "Commander Morrison, Jake, I owe you and your people a debt that can never be repaid." "You don't owe us anything, Your Majesty. We did what was right. You did more than that. You risked annihilation to save a species that once tried to destroy you. You forced ancient beings to question their purpose and find new meaning. You stood between death and life for countless civilizations because someone needed to and you were there." The Queen placed a crystalline hand on his shoulder. "That is not merely right. That is heroic." Jake felt uncomfortable with the praise. "We lost 38.